Right. Good afternoon. Thank you. Welcome, and thank you all for being here. It's great to see so many people have joined us. For those of you I have not met, I'm Tricia Canaday, the SHPO Administrator and Deputy SHPO for Idaho. Also participating from our office today is Ashley Malloy, our Compliance Architectural Historian. Ideally, Shannon Valine would be here as well today, but she is unavailable. Before we get started, I would ask you to please mute yourself if you are not already muted. We will be taking questions at the end, so please hold questions until then and raise your hand for us to call on you. We are also recording this session and all the other sessions, so we'll post a link to those recordings on the State Historical Society YouTube channel, or we'll post them on the YouTube channel, and a link to them will be available on the SHPO webpage later this week. So just as a little bit of background, I wanted to tell you a little bit about how we came to be where we are today. So we embarked down this road almost 10 years ago with a business analysis and feasibility study for automating the work of SHPO. It took several years for us to get the funding in place for this project. It is mostly self-funded through all those record search fees that many of you have paid over the years, as well as Historic Preservation Fund grant monies available as a result of staff vacancies over the years. The HPF, if you aren't aware, is the grant that supports approximately 90% of the SHPO's work. There have been other small buckets of funding here and there that we've also been able to put toward the project from various sources, primarily BLM and Forest Service through data or cost sharing agreements. So we want to thank our federal partners for that as well. Today, I'm going to give you just a general overview of the system and describe generally how certain elements will work. Ashley will then work through some rough mock-up pages to give you a sense of what the user interface might look like. This is a big project, as you can imagine, and there's a lot to it. So we're not going to be able to hit all of the minutia today, but there will be time at the end for questions. And of course, we'll also be having more of these sessions, and there will be more formal training as we approach go live. Our goal with this project has always been to build an enterprise-wide spatially enabled application, which will provide workflow management tools and increased efficiency on the SHPO end of things. For our external stakeholders, the system will provide for real-time access to SHPO GIS and data, including site forms and reports. It will also allow for resource and project information to be entered directly into the ICRIS and a subscription-based dashboard to track the status of projects. Our planning and expectation is that this system will, as I said, provide efficiencies for us, and we thank you, which will result in significantly...
Are you on the ICRIS thing? I just clicked on it, and now I'm turning the volume down.
Can you please mute? Thank you. We think that implementation of ICRIS will result in significantly faster turnaround times for federal project review. Right now, we are 55% complete, with go live currently scheduled for December 5th. We are prioritizing the Section 106 module of ICRIS, but our intent is to add modules that will manage CLG programs, National Register, and Tax Act projects as funding becomes available. We signed a contract with a developer about a year ago, though it took a few more months to really gear up and get working. Early stages moved slowly and built a lot of the infrastructure of the application without seeing the tangible results that we were all anxious to see. In the last couple months, however, progress has been rapid, and we now have some small elements we can show you, so you'll be able to better visualize what ICRIS will look like. Shannon Valine, Ashley Malloy, and I have been the primary staff involved with working with the developers, but the entire SHPO staff has played and continues to play an important part in visioning out what we want the system to do. Additionally, we sent a survey out to federal agency staff and contractors last year, asking for input regarding things you would like to see incorporated into ICRIS, as well as asking for feedback on the archaeological site form. Responses to that survey have informed the design of the application. Obviously, when building a system like this, there's a lot to it. We have been working for several months with the coders to describe in detail every incremental step of our desired process, which is quite a bit more than I think any of us ever understood when we embarked on this road. As we work through the development with the contractor, Shannon Valine, our data manager, has been spending nearly 100% of her time on this project. And Ashley and I spend probably between 10 and 15 hours a week on it as well. Throughout the development process, we are not only thinking about SHPO use and needs, but we are always thinking about what makes sense for our external users and how to increase efficiencies and make things easier for you. We know that there's been some level of perhaps trepidation about what this will mean for you in terms of interacting with our office and Section 106 consultation. In fact, big picture wise, there won't be huge changes. You will still input data about sites or resources for the most part, the same data. You will still provide photos of those resources. You will still write a report and submit it. But the process for these actions will become more automated for you and for us. For instance, rather than entering data into the SHPO's access databases, you will input data directly into ICRIS. Based on the survey responses we received last year, we took a critical look at our site forms and winnowed out some fields, so there will be fewer fields to input. Because everything will be initiated through GIS, much of the locational information will be auto-generated, saving you time and effort and hopefully ensuring more accurate maps. As now, there will be fields that are required. With ICRIS, you will not be able to complete or submit a resource record without completing all required fields. We anticipate that this will decrease the back and forth between SHPO and agencies and contractors where we are seeking additional or clarifying information. Users will create a project in ICRIS, and within a project, users will create resource records. We've had to shift our terminology a little bit because the ICRIS can't differentiate a site in the context of a property type versus a site record. So what we currently call site records, we will be calling resource records moving forward. You will also be able to upload shapefiles of your APE or survey area, or you can draw it within the GIS, and all existing sites or reports will populate within your project area. Once the project is created, associated resource records are created and completed, including uploading photos and any other miscellaneous documents. Users will write the survey report outside of the CRIS system and then upload a PDF version. Once all elements are complete, projects will be submitted to SHPO with a single keystroke. One significant change we think users will be especially happy to hear about is that as soon as a user finishes a resource record and hits complete, and note that is complete and not submit, a Smithsonian trinomial will be auto-generated to the resource record, so you will know that information immediately and not have to wait for SHPO to assign them. Both archaeological and built environment resources will now receive a Smithsonian number. There will no longer be IHSI numbers for built environment properties, though that data will still be part of our legacy data and searchable in the system. SHPO staff and subscription users will have a dashboard within ICRIS with active projects visible. On the SHPO end of things, we will have visual indication and automated reminders regarding review deadlines. You will be able to see who your project reviewer is and the status of your project. The CRIS system will have automated messages and timestamps to track project progress. We are developing a field app utilizing Survey 123 that will allow users to capture data and images in the field and batch upload that data upon return to the office. However, use of the app will not be mandatory. There will be an MOA module that will track stipulation completion and give federal agencies reminders when mitigation deadlines are coming due, thus hopefully eliminating what we sometimes call the black hole of mitigation. Those are some of the big picture elements. A lot of the details of the process still have to be worked out, but hopefully this gives you an idea of what the system will look like. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ashley, and she's going to run through a few slides that provide some kind of draft mock-ups of what some of these pages will look like. The user interface piece of this isn't fully completed yet, but this will give you a general idea of how things will look. All right, so I'm going to turn things over to Ashley, and we will let her talk about what these things are going to look like.
Sure. This is Ashley Malloy. I'm the compliance architectural historian with the SHPO. If you cannot see the screen, you can always go to the top and click view and focus on content, and that'll give you a larger view of the screen and the information on it. So as Tricia said, everybody will have a login to ICRIS. You'll first have to register, which is similar to any other website where you have your basic information that you have to enter, and then you'll have to verify that information. And then we will also have multi-factor authentication. This was required by the state for security purposes. So every time you log in, you'll need to complete the MFA, which will send you an email to verify your identity. And then once you're in the system, we'll have organization pages. So each organization will have an organization page with the users outlined. So you can see here in this example, we have the Idaho State Historical Society with our information, our billing information up here. And then we have the user information below. So you can see Shannon and myself are registered users of the Idaho State Historical Society. Most of this information, or most of the organizations will be auto-populated into ICRIS, but if for some reason your organization is not in ICRIS already, then we will have to register your organization. Our next section is the user profile. So each user will have a profile with their information, as well as on the right-hand screen, you can see qualifications. So this is where you will upload your qualifications. And this is where we can then, once we have those qualifications, we can grant you access to restricted data. This is also where you can manage and change your password if necessary. And just to note that this is the general sort of layout of ICRIS, where we have the bar that can be expanded on the left-hand side and then the header on the right or the top. This is an example of a survey search. It's still being developed, but you'll be able to look at previous survey reports based on the fields on the right-hand side, as well as uploading shape files and drawing on the map. There'll be similar search features for resources as well. As Tricia mentioned, everything in ICRIS will be project-based. To create a project, the bare minimum fields are the ones presented here. So the project type can be Section 106, 110, a CLG survey, a determination of eligibility, a PA development, or annual report. And then once you have that information entered, you can then continue on with uploading your resources or your surveys, or if you're a federal agency that hires a contractor, you can then assign this project to the contractor to complete. This is the survey creation page. So you can see your progress up at the top. It's similar if you've ever done TurboTax. It's 1, 2, and 3 steps. So we have our agency name, our SHPO review number, the title, author, year, organization, project number, keyword, and then the opportunity to upload your PDF attachment of the report. Once you fill out that section, you can click next and it'll take you to the add survey area. From here, you can either upload a shapefile of the area that you surveyed, or you can draw on the map. And then you can also select the map method. So if it was generated from GPS, or if it was hand-drawn or off a paper map, and then the survey class. So we'll have class 2, class 3. We'll also have architectural class. So begin to differentiate an archaeological survey from a built environment survey. So if you did, 1 acre of archaeological survey, but you did a half an acre of a built environment survey, you'll have 2 polygons that you can draw on this map. And then once you hit the next section, it'll give you a review page to review all your survey information, title, the attachments, the polygons that you had drawn or uploaded. And then at the bottom, it'll auto calculate all the information for intensive acres and reconnaissance acres, the counties involved, the quads, and the PLSS information. So this here is an example of the resource input screen that we have developed. There'll be shared information between all resources. So kind of all the information that we collect. So some of it's locational, some of it's description, history, National Register eligibility. Then once you select what type of resource you have, so if you're selecting archaeology prehistoric or archaeology historic or built environment, it'll give you a set of fields to fill out based on the information or the resource type. So on our right-hand side of the screen here, we have what is the building information to fill out. And then once we have that all complete, this is what the resource record will look like, or could look like. I think we're going to shuffle some things around on the layout, but this is an example of what it's going to look like with the information, the type, a photo, an overview photo, and then the National Register of Historic Places evaluation information. We also have a demo for you from our developers. So I will play that in one moment.
I'll just quickly say he talks really fast, so listen closely.
It's about 10 minutes long.
Okay, so right now I'm a user on ICRIS who has just logged in. Let's create a survey. So normally we'll do this from within a project, but projects, the workflow is not integrated into ICRIS just yet. So for the time being, I have this link on the sidebar just for creating a survey from a project. So here's the page that we get brought to when we start creating a new survey. So this is one that has just some pre-populated information from projects. So this is the organization name and the SHPO project number. So when we get to this page, the first thing I want to point out is we have a couple of fields that have red asterisks next to them saying that they need to fill them out. And we have a next button that's grayed out for the time being. So let's go ahead and start filling out our information for our survey. So for our title, let's call it demonstration survey. The author defaults to the logged in user's first name or last name, comma, first name, but we can change that. Let's make it Ethan Seal. And for the year, if we try to enter a year before the year 1900, it'll give us an error, so 1899. Or if we try to enter a year in the future, it'll also tell us it has to be between 1900 and the current year, which right now is 2023. So let's make it 2023. The organization project number this is just a text field, so it can be whatever the person filling out the survey wants it to be for their internal tracking purposes. So let's just add a little number in here. And the keywords page is just, or field is just a number of keywords that might make searching for the survey easier. If we start typing in the field, it'll give us a list of suggestions. These are based off of the current surveys in the database. But it also, you'll notice that at the bottom, just the thing that we have typed in is in the field. So we can pick something from our list. Let's do lithic technology. And let's also just type something that's not in there and it'll let us put it in. So how about teamwork? So teamwork isn't in the list, but I can go ahead and add it as a keyword for my survey anyway. And also, if we try to add a number of things, so if I typed maybe flora and added a comma, it'll just take that keyword and immediately add it onto the thing. So we can just enter a number of things in a row and it'll split it up automatically for us. And if we decided that we don't want one of them, there's just a button to remove it. So now we have the keywords lithic technology and flora on our fields. But we still can't go to the next page because we haven't uploaded an attachment. So it says upload a PDF file. If we click the upload button, it'll bring us to a file explorer. And you'll notice that only PDF files are allowed for this. So if we add a generic PDF called survey.pdf, we can upload it, and now it'll let us go on to the next page. So on the next page, the map will load up. We have a list of our shapes on the side. We haven't added any just yet. So let's go to the Nez Perce National Park, and you'll see that some other surveys have loaded up, but we're going to add our new area. So let's draw a shape. We just need to click where it'll go and then double click when it's done. It brings up a drop-down menu to ask us how the mapping method was and what the survey class is, and then it'll display that on the side. Let's add a couple of more shapes. How about a triangle? Tell it what kind of values we need. And let's do one more. So you'll see on the side over here, we have the shapes that we added and some buttons next to them. So we can zoom to the shapes that we've drawn. And if we decided that we don't want one of those shapes, we can delete it. And now maybe I realize that on this shape here, I maybe did the wrong map method or put a vertex in the wrong place. So I can adjust it and maybe change it to a reconnaissance survey. Okay, so now I added my two shapes. So let's go ahead. I'm done adding shapes for my survey. Let's go to our summary page. So when we come to the summary page, we see all of the information that we added for the tabular data. So the survey title, the year, the author, our organization project number, all of the keywords that we added for our survey. So lithic technology and flora. And then down here we have a read-only version of our map. So our shapes are here. We can still zoom to them, but from here we can't delete them. If we realize that we made a mistake, we could go back and change things from here. Or if we decided that we don't want to do it at all, we can hit the cancel button. It'll hold us up for a second and say, "Are you sure you want to cancel?" I think I'm actually gonna proceed, so I'll click cancel. And now we can submit our survey. So typically in this project workflow, after we submit a survey, it'll bring us back to the project page. But for the time being, we don't have that. Well, let's go ahead and verify that the survey we just added was actually created. So I'm going to go over to the survey search page, which is still a work in progress, but it'll work well enough for us to just look at the survey that we just added. We did it just east of Nez Perce, so you can see the shapes that we drew. If we click on here, a little pop-up comes up with the map method that we chose, the survey class. This is a unique survey number generated when the survey is submitted, the title, the author, and the year of our survey. So that's the whole survey creation process. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any. What were those little balls? I don't have any questions. Those are clapping hands. Yeah, that looked great. It seems intuitive and easy to use, and I like it. The only thing I'm going to say, and you've all heard me say this before, if on that landing page the text could be larger, I think that would be helpful for people like me.
definitely something we can
where
do.
you're filling in the forms, the data fields, if like, yeah, there where it's like
Huh.
title, like that's really hard for me to read. I have to put my face up very close to the screen.
Okay. That's definitely something we can take a look at for sure. Any questions, comments from anyone else?
Is there a link on when you did that survey search? Is there a link to take you to the PDF or the data page for that survey?
There will be. We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
all of
it
this will
looks
go
really
through
nice.
QA yeah, all of this will go through QA, Shannon, and so we'll if that was on the story, we'll definitely get there on and get those everything filled out.
Well done, Joseph. It looks really good.
Awesome. Well, I'm
Great
glad
job,
that
guys.
y'all like it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think like I said, it's looks very simple to use and self-explanatory and intuitive. Yeah, I think it looks great. Very nice. Thank you.
All right. Well, there's no questions, comments. Joseph, thank you so much. You did such a great job, and team, it looks really great. I think if there's no questions or any other comments about either the project plan or the status report, I'll go ahead and make a few of those updates we talked about and repost that to Confluence, and I think that's it.
So apparently I'm having technical difficulties at my computer. So I'm now in Ashley's office, and at this point, that's what we had to present to you today. But we've got about a half hour to take questions, and are very happy to do so. Please raise your hand, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. If we don't have time to get to all questions today, we will again be having more of these sessions in the future, or if you would like to send written questions to me, we can try to make sure that we incorporate answers to those questions in our next session or future sessions at some point. We'll probably be putting an FAQ up on our website as well. So looks like Nikki, you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a question about the mapping because it's talking about drawing shapes. Is there a capability to upload already created shape files?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I just hate to draw them twice.
Right. No, no, you can either upload or you can draw your shape,
Okay.
your survey area or APE.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Wow. No other questions? Okay. Noelle.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Trisha. This was actually really great. I just had a quick question. With everything being assigned a Smithsonian number, and I know that you've briefed on there will be different maps within the system, but I'm wondering for system users, how are they going to be able to distinguish between the different cultural resources types on a combined, graphic?
Yeah, good question. They will be color coded. So built environment will be one color. And everything will actually be polygons rather than point data. So that should help make it more easily distinguishable.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thanks so much.
Sure. Barbara. Barbara, you might be on mute. All right, Barbara, I'm going to come back to you. Shane, go ahead.
Yeah, Tricia, there are 2 comments in the chat. Maybe you can't see that. Sometimes it doesn't always project if you're at your monitor. Do you want me to read those or can you see those? One from Tara
Thank you
and
for
one
pointing
from
those
Cody.
out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shane. I'll keep a close eye on that. I have to toggle back and forth between the chat and the raised hands. Did you have a question, Shane, or otherwise I'll just check on the questions in the chat?
Oh, no, yeah, just one real quick one. That was, can we, and maybe it's early to say exactly how the process will work, but can we start site forms and then have them sort of holding or whatever, and then submit them after they're finalized? You know what I'm saying? We find that often it takes 2 runs, some initial field work will happen, then some follow-up, and
Yes.
it's not always easy to go in and do final editing.
Yes, you can save a draft of the site or the resource record and go back in and alter and edit it later, as many times as you need to.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, so Tara asked, can we update site information in the system that isn't tied to a specific project? For example, if I have an updated site form from an annual field check. We have it.
Hi, Tara. This is Ashley. So there'd be 2 options for that. We have an annual report project, so you could throughout the year, update site forms that way. Or there's an option to do a project that's just a determination of eligibility. But it's always project based, so your best bet probably is to just create an annual report with that information.
And certainly if there are previous legacy records, if this is the first time it's being revisited, it'll need to be created in the ICRIS system, updated in the ICRIS system, I should say. So Tia asked, is there a method of reviewing previously recorded surveys and sites in relation to a project APE? Yes, I'm not sure if your thumbs up means you got the answer to your question, but yes, when you create an APE, the previous site records, resource records, and reports will populate within there, and then you can view them if you have permissions, if you're, have the appropriate professional qualifications. Let's see. Jennifer Finn, how will open access work with sensitive sites such as TCPs, sacred sites, and burials? Yeah, so there will be permissions on the back end of the system that only certified or professionally qualified professionals can view and access those records. So that will be done on our side of things, kind of behind the scenes. When you register as a user and upload your credentials, then we'll give you permissions as appropriate. I'm going to go back to raised hands for a minute. Barbara, are you able to?
She had a question in the chat.
Oh, did you? Oh, you had it in the chat. I didn't have to toggle back and forth. Okay. Okay. Barbara says, my question is, how will this impact current projects? Do we move ahead using current process until December 5th? And then how quickly will recent projects be uploaded to the new system? So, we're kind of having to tackle this as we go. There will be a transition point, of course. After go live, we want everything in the system, in the ICRIS system. Prior to that, we'll accept projects as they come to us, in the current methods. In some cases, we've already been talking to federal agencies with particular projects that might be upcoming to just say, if there's no urgency, just wait and do it in ICRIS later. But if you have a project and you're ready to submit it, you can still submit it before go live.
What I was saying, Barbara, I've been also recommending if you have a large project with a lot of resources, you're going to submit it after that December date, that maybe you hold off on the access database portion and putting together the site records and doing that in ICRIS once it goes live. But maybe you work on the resource descriptions now.
Yeah, I guess that'll be up to you. I think it'll be much easier in ICRIS. Almost all fields will be drop-down fields. So and then again, there are those auto-populate fields that should make things easier as well. Going back to the chat, looks like everyone's just doing it in the chat instead of raising their hands, which is just fine. So let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss any here. Okay, so Craig, so we will no longer need to do a record search of the 1 mile buffer, or will that show up also? I think when we put yeah, Ashley can answer this better than I can.
So when you, they're still building out the project section of ICRIS, but you'll do a record search in ICRIS and it will capture the buffer of 1 mile. So you can do your background research on other sites that are there.
Will any member of the public be able to see the site polygons? There will be a guest access to ICRIS, but they will only have access to built environment resources. So they will only see that layer populated on the public map. The archaeological sites and sensitive sites will not be visible to guest users. Can project APEs be uploaded in other formats such as KMZ or KML?
So we told the developer to accept everything that Esri would accept. So it might not do KMZs, but it should do KMLs.
Thank you, Ashley. Pat, how are you planning to deal with projects on reservations with typos? Well, we won't be dealing with those. Those will be your projects as they are now, and you know, none of that will change. That they project proponents with a project on a reservation that has a typo will still need to consult with you and not with us unless there's overlap outside of the reservation boundaries.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Trish?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Pat.
So, I mean, so if people are doing record searches and stuff on ICRIS, you know, we're expecting them to come to us, but is there going to be some way for them to know that you know, like a prompt for them to talk to Jill or I about projects on reservations?
Yes.
And secondarily, is there, you know, what if when you put something in ICRIS that's on reservation, what are you guys going to, I mean, are you guys going to kick that data out, or are you going to sit, I mean, it's not just that we know they talk to us.
Okay, so to your first question, there will be layers built into ICRIS for reservation lands. So that will be immediate and visible to users. We're also building in layers for certified local government jurisdiction boundaries as well. And we're also, sorry, we're in the midst of all of this right now, but our intent is also that there will be points during the project at which users are prompted to make sure that they have contacted, you know, tribal entities to make sure that they're doing that consultation. And then your question, I'm sorry, the second part of your question, can you repeat that, Pat?
Well, I mean, if someone uploads projects that are within the reservation boundary, is ICRIS going to recognize that or have somebody dealing with it?
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, we haven't designed that portion of the project yet, Pat, but if something, maybe we'll have it either prompt them saying this is on tribal lands, or sort of like what we do now. If we get something that's we're not supposed to review, we'll probably say no comment, this is on TIPO lands, you know, per the regs, and send you an email and CC them.
And
I'm glad the one thing that just comes up is because there's at least one of the contractors that for years has sent courtesy copies to TIPO to the SHPO for everything that's on the reservation. We've asked them not to, but anyway. So that's something. Some of that stuff's probably in your records as well as mine.
Okay, yeah, we hear you. We haven't built this part out yet, as Ashley mentioned, and we'll get with you guys, all the tribes, as we're building that out to make sure that it's reflecting, you know, what you all want to see and how you want that to be handled.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Let's see. Will we have access to the handwritten original site forms? Yes. All of the legacy data will be captured and associated with the new ICRIS system as a PDF. The way you get it essentially now in a record search. Did I miss one?
I thought you did. No, you're good.
Okay. Will we be able to download polygons of sites or surveys that we can use for map making in our reports? Oh, what?
Subscription.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna sneeze. Can you answer that?
Yeah, Bryce. So if you have a subscription to the ICRIS system, you'll be able to download the polygons, the survey information, and the reports. If you don't have a subscription, it's view only on the system.
Jill, reservations with TIPOs need to be noted in particular because the records are not added to ICRIS. Yes, yes, agreed. Tia, how much is a subscription for ICRIS? That's a good question. We haven't quite landed on that yet. We need to work with our fiscal department and our director to come up with a fee schedule. There will be options for users. There will be a no fee option that will allow you to upload and submit a project and view data without, as Ashley mentioned, downloading. It might have more limited GIS layers on it, and those can be. And then there are individual and up to, you know, multi-user subscriptions that will be available. So that's TBD, and we'll be getting that information out as soon as we develop it. Brian, do you have an estimate of anticipated costs associated with access to ICRIS? I think that's the same question. To help with our contracting, will there still be additional fees associated with record searches? No, there will be no fees associated with record searches because the subscription to ICRIS, or even not the subscription, if you just go with the free version, will provide you immediate real-time access to the data in our system, which is why we have to replace the record search fees with subscription fees in order to earn back that income that our office significantly relies on. Are there agency subscriptions, or does each person need a separate subscription? For federal agencies, the subscription will be by essentially like forest or BLM district for as many users as the agency has in that office. And that's going to be a flat fee across the board for federal agencies. The commercial access, the pro user access, there will be an individual and up to like an individual membership or subscription of 2 to 5 person subscription, and then an unlimited subscription, and the cost of those will be reflected by the number of users that you subscribe for. Nick, contested lands should also have a prompt to contact TIPO. For example, Hayburn, Gasser Point, Maury, and McCroskey State Parks. Yeah, we'll add that to our list of things that we'll discuss with the tribes. Thank you, Nick, for that. What resource types will be required to be uploaded? Not sure I understand that question. Any resource that you would be creating a site form for now, you would still be doing that in the ICRIS. Maybe I didn't quite understand your question, Craig, if you want to come off mute and clarify.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so we're talking about archaeological sites, built structures, etc., but not isolates or NBNRs.
What?
So we're doing isolate.
Yeah, we'll have some kind of isolate something, and that's still TBD. We will have a separate resource type for linear resources for the first time. So that'll include, roads, canals, trails, that kind of thing. So there will be essentially, an archaeological site form and a built environment site form and a linear resource site form or resource record. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then a follow-up, you mentioned that there you can only upload area features. Is that correct?
Oh, polygons? Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So instead of point data for like a building, for instance, you can just draw really quickly around a built environment resource, a quick little square polygon. It's not super complicated. But it just makes things easier for the system to have the polygons rather than point data and polygons together.
Yeah. Okay. What about features that are like the scale is just not there? Like, for instance, your isolates.
So if you're talking about like features, you'll still need a sketch map for your records to upload. The isolates, we're still working out that information.
All right.
Eric, when will you notify leadership at agencies about costs? If you're planning on charging agencies, it may be worth actually consulting them and or discussing it with them. Thank you, Eric. Yes, that is a conversation we are having internally to be had externally as well. Nathan, can ICRIS produce tabular data of previous reports within an APE? Wondering if it can help us automate our record tables. Yes, that ICRIS will be able to, yes, produce tabular data tables. Not seeing any other questions. Going once, going twice. Oh, here we go. Tribal subscription. Who can submit on behalf of the tribe? Who can submit projects, do you mean, Anna? I'm not quite clear on your question. Anna, can you come off mute to answer?
Yes, I was wondering about information, site reports, sacred sites, how that's determined. And Shoshone Tribe would like to submit for a subscription.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we haven't gotten to the build out of tribally related sites yet and tribally related issues. And when we do want to have the conversation. Before we do, we want to have a conversation with the tribes about how that is best approached in the system. As I mentioned earlier, there will be restrictions on who can see the information, so that exists. But even right now, we do maintain data that is related to tribal properties that we don't have in our database or on ArcGIS, and I imagine we will continue to do that because of sensitivity issues. So we're still working on how we're going to address all of that. But that will be a discussion and a decision in consultation with the tribes.
Thank you.
One more question. Will there be a difference on ICRIS between reconnaissance or intensive level surveys? Yes. Of course, we know that from an archaeological perspective versus from a built environment perspective, we use those terms differently. Do you want to address that?
Yeah,
question?
Barbara. So we have, we'll have class 2 and class 3. So like the sampling survey, and then class 3 will be for intensive archaeological survey. And then all other survey like you do for the most part will just be classified as architectural survey. And I think we're classifying that in this system as reconnaissance level.
Can users that do not meet SOI standards, for example, archaeological staff, be able to use the system? If they're archaeological staff, they should be able to use the system. I'm not sure I'm clear on the question. We do work with agencies that don't have any professional staff. And so they will have the, what are we calling it? The basic user access.
Yeah.
So like HUD, for instance, they typically delegate to local communities. And then the cities or municipalities will be creating projects, but they'll be doing it in the basic user access rather than the pro user access. I hope that made sense. Can the federal agency designate a contractor who can enter projects rather than having to enter the project and then assign the project to the contractor? So yes, it can work either way. Either an agency can create a project and then kick it over to the contractor to input all the data, all the resource records, and upload the project report. Those will need to be kicked back to the federal agency for submitting to our office. So it will ensure that, you guys, federal agencies, get a last look at a project before it is submitted to our office. Some agencies may prefer to simply have a contractor do the whole soup to nuts piece of it and create a project for them, if that is their preference, or in the case of certain agencies that don't consult directly with our office, like FCC, again, HUD, those kinds of projects where we're not typically seeing contractors being used. There are bypass agencies, and in those cases, consultants will be able to submit directly to our office. But every agency is categorized as either a bypass agency or not. And if you're not, which most of them aren't, only the agency itself will be able to submit the project. But contractors will be able to create projects if that's the agency's preference. Not seeing any more questions. We'll give it another minute or two if anyone thinks of anything they want to ask. But our time is winding down. Thank you, Tara. We're also looking forward to it. We really do believe earnestly that this is going to be better for everyone, and we're enthusiastic about it, and truly hope that there will certainly be learning curves and bumps in the roads and things we need to debug, and but we're confident that once we get past that initial stage, this will be a better system for everybody. So yes, thank you. So as I mentioned, we will post this this video on our website and a link to it on our SHPO webpage. So please feel free to look at it yourself again or share it with anyone you think might be interested. And also, if you know of anyone who you think might be interested that we perhaps didn't get an invitation to these sessions to, please feel free to share the invitation widely. So Craig Howard, so will this be debugged prior to December? I think the debugging process is probably going to be an ongoing thing. It's not something that, we have to get along a certain distance on the path to understand what needs to be debugged and what doesn't need to be debugged. So I expect that the initial couple months could be a little, rocky. I hope not very rocky. We're pretty confident in these developers, and they're very responsive to our questions and concerns and our everything that we've told them that we really want to see in the system. So, but there is going to be a learning curve, and there's going to be an amount of time when we're going to have to be doing some debugging. So we do ask for patience in that. And in the meantime, of course, you will always be able to call our office anytime, talk to your reviewer or myself or anybody if you have questions. ICRIS isn't going to remove the human element from this process. It's going to automate a lot of things, but you will still always be welcome to call the staff anytime you have questions. So please keep that in mind. All right. Well, not seeing any more questions. Thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate all of you coming to hear about this. And as I said, if you have questions that maybe come to you later, you can either save them for next time, or if you want to send a written question, we'll make sure it gets addressed next time. So yeah, thank you all very much, and we'll see you in a few more weeks.
Thank you.